Welcome back to our Founder Acharya Essential Series. Lesson 8 is called Damayanti.
To love is to cooperate.
Srila Prabhupada's well-known desire that we cooperate to spread Krishna consciousness to every town and village was more than a farewell request as he was preparing to leave this world. It was a theme he voiced continually during his 12 years of non-stop preaching round the globe. Yet in spite of Prabhupada's mandate that we work together, cooperation can be hard to find in the age of quarrel, where non-cooperation too often prevails. In this key lesson on cooperation, we'll see up close why cooperation can be so elusive, as well as what we can do to foster it.
To serve cooperatively is the test of love.
By May 1977, Srila Prabhupada's health had been declining for months. It was time to return to Vrindavan, India, his quote, home, as he called it, to recover or to depart. When his secretary suggested he make a will, Prabhupada agreed. For 7 years, Srila Prabhupada had been training the members of ISKCON's Governing Body Commission, GBC, to manage the society after his departure. To help them feel the gravity of that responsibility, Prabhupada requested they all come to Vrindavan to witness the will. Quote, "Because they love you," said his secretary, "I'm sure they will all want to come and be with you." Prabhupada's reply was grave.
Your love for me, said Srila Prabhupada, will be shown by how much you cooperate to serve this institution together after I'm gone.
So Prabhupada's point was to cooperate. Despite Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's order that his leading disciples, quote, work conjointly and, quote, without any quarrel, after his demise, their non-cooperation fragmented the Gaudiya mission and later disqualified most of them from helping Prabhupada revive it in the West. Determined that non-cooperation not similarly spoil ISKCON, Prabhupada often defined and tested his disciples' devotion in terms of their willingness to work together. Quote, "When you do something in cooperation with the Lord," Prabhupada told a group of devotees and guests in Seattle, "that is called bhakti," unquote. And to another disciple he wrote, quote, "The test of our actual dedication and sincerity to serve the spiritual master will be in this mutual cooperative spirit to push on this movement and not make factions and deviate," unquote. So Prabhupada's point was to cooperate. And he also presented a counterpoint.
But don't expect utopia.
Anybody not know what utopia is? Okay, it means some imaginary perfect place. And it doesn't exist in the material world. A couple of years after Prabhupada had formed the GBC, one GBC man wrote to complain that the GBC's mismanagement was due to its members' impersonal dealings. Prabhupada disagreed.
The devotees of Krishna are the most exalted persons on this planet, better than kings. All of them. So we should always remember that, and like the bumblebee, always look for the nectar or the best qualities of a person, not like the utopians who are like the flies who always go to the open source or find the faults in a person. And because they cannot find any utopia, or because they cannot find anyone without faults, they want to become void, merge, nothing. They think that is utopia, to become void of personality.
If Prabhupada's point is to cooperate, and his counterpoint not to expect utopia, then what is his resolution?
Find unity in diversity.
When yet another GBC man wrote to inform Prabhupada of dissension in the ranks, Prabhupada's response was philosophical and proactive.
The materialists cannot come into agreement with varieties, but if we keep Krishna in the center, then there will be agreement in varieties. This is called unity in diversity. I am therefore suggesting that all our men meet in Mayapur every year during the birth anniversary of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. With all GBC and senior men present, we should discuss how to make unity in diversity.
As Prabhupada knew, and as time has shown us, finding unity in diversity is an ongoing challenge.
Unite around principles, diversify the details.
Since achieving unity in diversity is the key to cooperation, Prabhupada's measure of our love for him, we need to dive deeper into his life, teachings, mood, and mission to find it. We need to identify timeless, universal principles whose applications or details will naturally vary.
The teacher, Acharya, has to consider time, candidate, and country. What is possible in one country may not be possible in another. The Acharya's duty is to accept the essence of devotional service. It is not necessary that the rules and regulations followed in India be exactly the same as those in Europe, America, and other Western countries. What is required is a special technique according to country, time, and candidate.
Of course, even if the Acharya's, quote, special technique proves effective for spreading Krishna consciousness, advanced devotees may still disagree on the details of how universal principles are applied.
On principles and details.
For example, while receiving a massage from his assistant one day, Prabhupada remarked, "My godbrothers criticize me that I have allowed women to live in our temples. This is not done in India, but I have become successful because I made this adjustment."
In the silence that followed, his assistant, Shrutakirti Prabhu, felt compelled to ask, "Prabhupada, how can we tell the difference between making an adjustment and changing a principle?"
That's the million-dollar question, right? All right, then you listen to what Prabhupada said. It's profound and it's funny too.
Prabhupada closed his eyes as Shrutakirti continued to rub his body. Finally, he opened his eyes and responded, "That requires a little intelligence."
A little intelligence? I mean, his own godbrothers didn't get it. Right? In his commentary to Sri Chaitanya Chaitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 7, text 37, Prabhupada describes the compassionate intent of such intelligence. Quote, "An acharya should devise a means by which people may somehow or other come to Krishna consciousness. First, they should become Krishna conscious, and all the prescribed rules and regulations may later gradually be introduced." That's exactly what Prabhupada did. Unquote. For instance, in Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's Gaudiya mission, many devotees used to chant 64 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra on their beads. Despite Prabhupada suggesting fewer rounds to his ISKCON recruits, first 32, then 25, they still looked perplexed. That would take forever. Prabhupada then declared 16 rounds daily the rock bottom minimum for his initiated disciples. When one of those early initiates later asked Prabhupada why he had asked them to chant so many rounds, then reduce the number, Prabhupada replied that he was, quote, experimenting with how to give people the chanting. That's what Brahmananda said in the book that Satyaraj wrote with him called Swamiji. To determine a principle's practical application, Prabhupada would often try something and then, quote, judge by the result. What's the Bengali Prabhupada would say? Judge by the result. Palena parachiyate, the full. You have to judge the full by the result. Or judge. You have to judge parachiyate by the result. And if it works, okay. If it doesn't, then you got to make an adjustment. But it's a detail. To distinguish an absolute principle from a relative detail isn't always easy. But the quality Krishna's Gita identifies as the first step to knowledge helps. Anybody remember this Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, text 8 through 12, items of knowledge? Anybody remember the first one? The first item of, it doesn't sound like an item of knowledge, but it is. Amanatvam, humility. Humility, yeah. Humility helps. All right? Want to read that?
Humility helps.
Okay. At one point, while instructing Sanatana Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped to marvel at his humble disciple.
Since you possess Lord Krishna's potency, you certainly know these things. However, it is the nature of a sadhu to inquire. Although he knows these things, the sadhu inquires for the sake of strictness.
Prabhupada wrote no commentary. He didn't purport that verse to this text, but later spoke about it in New York, actually, in 1976.
A sadhu, a saintly person, although he knows everything, still he remains very humble and tries to confirm from the higher authorities. I think this is right. Is it not right? He knows it is all right, but still he waits for the higher authority to confirm it.
Strict and never presuming they know everything, humble devotees are always glad to hear from each other and to see each other as Prabhus or masters. Because they trust each other's motives, they are happy to work together, to cooperate, even if they sometimes disagree. And so this is really a short lesson. This is the last slide before the learning outcomes, and it's something Prabhupada said. Okay.
To love is to cooperate.
We're going to give Prabhupada the final word on this. There is audio to it, but I didn't use it because there's an annoying loud buzz in the background, so it kind of distracts. There's Prabhupada being fanned in Mayapur, or Vrindavan maybe. Look, there's a young Yadavar on the left with a peacock fan. It looks like Brahmananda Swami is checking his nails out, his fingernails. Prabhupada, one of his mudras, like try to understand mudra, you know. And then this is Panchadravida Maharaj on the right. So the context is that 76 Mayapur festival. In 75, the Radha Damodar traveling party, which consisted of many buses, they had won the marathon. We used to call it the Christmas marathon in those days. And so as a reward, and he had said this before, he said, if you Prabhus work hard, I'll send you all to Mayapur. You know, with all the books distributed and all the collections are made. You're all going to Mayapur. And I'll see to it, when we're in Mayapur, that we'll have a big personal darshan with Srila Prabhupada in his rooms. And it happened. So there's audio to this. So they're in Prabhupada's room, and you'd think that maybe Prabhupada might start talking to them about book distribution, because they had just won, the marathon, distributed the most books. And so, but he didn't. He chose to speak about cooperating. All right, and here is the transcript of what he said.
Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is God himself, Krishna himself. He felt alone, unable to do this task. He felt, so this is the position. You are cooperating. Therefore, I am getting the credit. Otherwise, alone, what could I do? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself wanted our cooperation. He is God, Krishna, and therefore, cooperation is a very important thing. Nobody should think that I have got so great ability I can do. No. It is simply by cooperation we can do very big thing. United we stand, divided we fall. Sankirtana. Sankirtana means many men combined together. Chanting, that is Sankirtana. Otherwise, Kirtana. Sankirtana means many combined together. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission.
Yeah, Prabhupada used a saying, an English saying, that he knew everybody knew, and it made so much sense. United we stand, divided we fall. He also said, just like in Aesop's fables, which he knew from his education at Scottish Churches College, there's the bundle of sticks, and you can't break the bundle, but if you take each stick out, you can easily break it. So we have to stay together, work together, and we can do big things combined together. Okay, so before we receive your questions and comments, let's look at the learning outcomes for this 8th lesson, to love is to cooperate.
Lesson 8. To love is to cooperate. Learning outcomes. By now, we should be able to recall what Srila Prabhupada said would be the sign of our love for him after he departed this world. Explain why Srila Prabhupada said we shouldn't expect utopia. Explain what Srila Prabhupada meant by unity in diversity. Explain what it means to unite around principles and diversify the needs. Details. Recall how Srila Prabhupada determined the relative application of a universal principle. Recall the first step to knowledge, which may also help us distinguish principles from details. Recall why Srila Prabhupada said cooperation was so important for spreading Krishna consciousness.
Okay, and I'll just say the transition to my favorite lesson is tomorrow, even though this is actually the essence, to love is to cooperate. Okay, transition. Before we look at different ways to access and develop our individual loving relationship with Srila Prabhupada, that's the last lesson. In the next lesson, we'll identify and dispel some misconceptions we may have about him. I call it fictional Prabhupads, make-believe Prabhupads, wrong-headed ideas about Prabhupada. Okay, hands. Oh, Ishan Prabhu.
My question was about cooperation, because it's
Good.
such a,
That's the subject.
sometimes people mistake cooperation as submission to what the other person is saying.
Yeah, that's a joke line too. Yeah, just do what I say, and then that you're cooperating. My way or the highway.
Yeah.
That's not a leader.
So how can we, cooperate and also introduce what our opinion is on certain perspectives?
Well, one way is, you're going to say more?
No, that's it.
Okay. One way is you just had, the other day you were in Maharaja's room. Was Maharaj, I don't think he was there. You had an Ishtagosti?
Yeah.
Do you know what Ishtagosti means? Prabhupada gives a very interesting definition of Ishtagosti in CC. A discussion among friends. A discussion. And even Prabhupada, who was obviously the head of ISKCON and obviously was coming from such a high platform, and he, we didn't know anything. Even as we learn more, he would ask our opinion. He would ask, right? What do you think we should do? Because as he told us, don't try to make me God. I'm not omniscient. I need your help to understand what to do here. And he would hear, and then depending on what the input was, he would either take the advice or not, because he would have an idea of what he thought we should do or what was right. But then, but he did take input. So in order to cooperate, before we can cooperate, what do we have to do? We have to communicate, right? We've got to really understand each other, and that's how we trust each other's motives, when we communicate. And therefore, even when we disagree, we can agree to disagree, and we can be happy, we can get along. And it's not that okay, so your idea prevails. Okay, let's try it out. Let's judge by the result. And if it doesn't work out, okay, let's try my idea. Prabhupada would do that. It wasn't set in stone. Prabhupada was, he was, as they say, he was building the airplane in midair. He was traveling all over the world, and he had to, and he found out, it was in that purport, the way you do it, the way you preach Krishna consciousness in India is really different than the way you preach in the West. Yeah. But that's an application according to time, country, candidate. Okay, my godbrothers criticize me. So then Shrutakirti, oh no, I got to ask him a question. And Shrutakirti said when he asked Prabhupada that question, Prabhupada had his back to him because he was giving Prabhupada a massage. So as soon as Prabhupada said, I have become successful because I made this adjustment that I let boys and girls, live in the same temples. So then Shrutakirti, okay, I got to ask a question. He tells all this, and what is the difficulty? Which, if you read this, it's a great book. And I got to get the words right. Okay, so what did he say exactly? How do you make a... I know, okay. Prabhupada, how can we tell the difference between making an adjustment and changing a principle? And then the way it actually happened was, this wasn't recorded either, but the way Shruta describes it is that Prabhupada didn't say anything at first. He was going, you ever heard Prabhupada say, And then finally, that requires little intelligence. Whoa. It's the understatement of the yuga, right? A little intelligence? That's the whole thing. So cooperation is a cooperative effort. It takes a cooperative effort to cooperate. And as that person, that devotee who said, the GBC is so inefficient because they complain that the GBC, their mismanaging was due to its members' impersonal dealings. So sure, Prabhupada could have agreed with him, right? But he also detected, because this devotee who said this, it was a Treya Rishi, Farar Mars Attar from Tehran. He was an Iranian, the first Iranian devotee. He was the GBC. And he was a little older than most of us, and he had a master's in management. And he knew he had more worldly experience than a lot of the devotees. So he was saying, they're so impersonal, the way they deal with each other. But Prabhupada, instead of agreeing that, okay, that's there, he wanted to teach Atreya a lesson that don't be on your high, don't think that you're, God's gift to ISKCON or something. The devotees of Krishna are the most exalted persons on this planet, better than kings, all of them, even the neophytes, even the most ranked neophyte. What to speak of, the GBC, his GBC godbrothers. So then he starts telling, no, you got to see the good here. Don't be like the utopians who just see faults. Yeah. So, is that okay? You sure? Sometimes I just say so many things and I don't actually hit the mark.
So the second part, how do you put out your point in front of people and also cooperate as well? I think that's something that does not happen usually, especially like if you're a neophyte or if you're new, people may not necessarily listen to your points. So how do you put it forward in front of, like for example, giving this example of the GBC at that time, there were like Shrutikirti Prabhu was mentioning, how his godbrothers, because he was young and he was not one of the seniors. He
Yeah, he
didn't
wasn't
treat
he hadn't been, he was a grihasta when they knew him in the old days.
Yeah, so it's not easy to keep your point forward, and cooperate with everyone. So
Well, you know what he told them on that point about women and men serving in the temples? He said, look, when I came to America, I saw that these people are, from the time they're toddlers, they're mixing. That's the culture, quote, culture. One time somebody asked Gandhi, what do you think of Western civilization? And Gandhi said, I think it would be a good idea if they got civilized, right? So Prabhupada said, look, they're mingling, and so what am I to do? You can't just, artificially separate them. They're educated, in co-ed in schools and colleges, and they're living together, sometimes not even married. So what's he going to do? Is he going to stand pat? And they had a good point. They were standing on a principle. What's the principle they were standing on? That you shouldn't have men and women. It's mentioned by Narada Muni in 7th canto of Bhagavatam. The principle of fire and butter. You've heard that one, right? Yeah. So, and that's a principle, right? That the man gets too close, too familiar, too chummy, with the lady, and then all of a sudden he starts melting, and then scandalous things happen. And scandalous things had already happened in his movement by the time they complained. This is 72, right, when he's installing Ananta Shesh in Mayapur for the whole project. And he knew scandalous things had already happened. Scandalous things were happening. Scandalous things would happen. To this day, it happens, right? But he's not going to, because of that principle, he had a higher principle, giving everybody, including the ladies, access to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, letting them serve together in the temples with etiquette. We have our etiquette. It's not a free-for-all. It's not a big party, right? So, that takes a little intelligence, and it takes practical observation, experience. Whereas, his godbrothers would have just stand pat on the fire butter principle, and it wouldn't have, and then it wouldn't have grown. Prabhupada said, for all their complaints, they have not moved Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement 1 inch. That's what he told us. Yeah. So, you got to know when to be strict and when to be a little liberal. That's leadership. All right, Maharaj.
I don't know if you spent time talking about the days of Radha Damodar. That was in 1975, a time of lack of cooperation.
Oh, in what?
In the sense that a new philosophy was coming out there.
You're talking about the sannyasis v. Grihastha?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, okay.
The practice side of the word.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd like to say something about that?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, when Prabhupada started ISKCON, okay, so it was more like a family because it was small. When things get big, then you have big problems. It's harder to manage, right? And people hadn't been to India yet, just only a couple, Chudananda Swami and Jayapataka Maharaj, he was in India. But people weren't going to India. But then when people started going to India, they were picking up a lot of Indian things that wasn't necessarily applicable in the West. Here's a good example. My god sister the late great Jamuna Devi. So she used to tell the story. I think it's in her books. Anybody have the books? Yeah, it's great. If you want to get a good perspective on Maharaja's question, read Jamuna's books. So she was, when Prabhupada took it was in 71, when Prabhupada took his dancing white elephants, his Western disciples, to India, and then part of the tour, he took them to the Ardha Kumbh Mela. Ardha means half, right? And so, and Guru Das had gotten a good spot. Was it? No, that was later on when he didn't get a good spot. So they were at Kumbh Mela, and yeah, why do the 30 million people who go to Kumbh Mela, why do they go? They want to catch the nectar, and it's a karma kanda thing. It's about going to heaven and getting the blessings of the gods and all this stuff. And that's why you wade into the Ganges at just the right time, and it's a real karma. But Prabhupada, he wanted to go there because it's the biggest religious festival on earth to preach. He wanted to go to do Harinam all around the Mela and distribute prasadam. And for those who were really interested, and he knew that the dancing white elephants would be a novelty and a hit, so then some people would come back to where Prabhupada, where their spot was, their camp was in the Mela, and hear Prabhupada. So, so one day, they were always busy, the devotees, very, very busy at the Mela. So anyway, one fine day, Prabhupada, let's see, there were different tents. They had a ladies' tent, a tent for the ladies, tent for the men, and then Prabhupada had his tent. And the tents only came down at the bottom of the tent. It was a big tent, but then it came down so that it was about a foot or so off the ground. So Prabhupada always knew who was walking by his tent just by the bottom of the people's clothes. Whichever dhoti it was or whatever sari, right, he knew. So Jamuna said, so after we had done, I forget what the previous program was, we were all running around, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, so Prabhupada did have a program, and the program was he was speaking. And so Jamuna said, so I wanted to catch every word. You're going to hear this in the next lesson? No, lesson 10, the last one. And do we know when that's going to be yet or no?
We can talk about it.
Okay. It's either Sunday or Wednesday, right? Okay, probably Wednesday. Okay, so Jamuna said, so she wanted to get a good spot to hear Prabhupada. She just went right in, and she just sat right down, right in front of the lectern where Prabhupada was going to speak, and she's waiting, chanting her japa. You read this? And so, before Prabhupada comes, just before Prabhupada comes, Jamuna hears a psst, Jamuna. It's a male voice. It's one of her godbrothers, and he says, "You see where the Indian ladies? Because some Indian ladies had come in to hear. You see where the Indian ladies are sitting, kind of behind and to the side. You should sit there. You should sit there. You should sit there." So Jamuna's thinking, what? Ever since 1967. In the Haight-Ashbury at 518 Frederick Street, she sits right in front of Prabhupada so she can catch every word. She just is so attached to hearing from Prabhupada, and Prabhupada loved it that she was that, attached to hearing. So she thought, okay, I've heard about this stuff, where these Indian ladies are sitting behind, and let me see what this is all about. So she gets up from her chosen spot, and she walks behind and to the side. Prabhupada comes out, gives a great lecture, and then great Q&A, and Prabhupada's roaring like a lion. He was heavy with the Indians, Bharata Bhumite Manusha, you're from India. India's, you know the Vedic culture, Vedic literature. Why are you running away from it? This is our gift to the world. So anyway, then everybody, and then finally all glories to Srila Prabhupada, everybody bows down and leaves, and then everybody starts scattering to set up for the next program, whatever it was. So Jamuna said at one point, she's walking by Prabhupada's tent, right? And then Prabhupada immediately sees it's her because of the bottom of her sari. He knows it's her sari. So she hears, Jamna. That's how Prabhupada, Jamna. Yes, Srila Prabhupada. And she goes in Prabhupada's tent. Yes? So you know what Prabhupada said? Oh my God. So, you do not like to hear me anymore? No. Whoa! And that was too much for Jamuna. She just broke out crying. She was just sobbing. And then finally, she told what happened. She was right in front where she always sits, forever since 1967. And then when she finally collected herself enough after that, she said, so Srila Prabhupada, what should I do? So again, Prabhupada didn't say anything, like with Shuddha Kirti. So Prabhupada said, yes, this is India. This is India. It's different. It's not the Haight-Ashbury 1967 into the West. This is the culture in India. I mean, it's changing now. That was like 50 years ago almost. So it's, India's now successfully copied the West. But that's what Prabhupada said in 1971. So then Prabhupada, to inform her, because he could see that it wasn't her fault. She was just following what her elder godbrother had said. That's when he told the story about the godbrothers, of how they always like to be with him physically, close to him physically. And you remember what I said, that Prabhupada said about disciples like that who like to be close to him physically all the time, more than hearing from him? Guru Maharaj said they were like mosquitoes, simply sucking blood. So if you really want to be close to me, and she got the message that now it was time, and this was 71, this was 6 years before Prabhupada passed, that if she really wants to get close to him, the way to do it is to get attached to his Vani, him and his everlasting Vani form, and serve in separation. Now, interestingly enough, who was she married to? Gurudas. When Prabhupada left this world, it wasn't long before Gurudas left ISKCON. Because he, the husband, didn't get that message like Jamuna did, the wife. He had a lot of apu. He would always go wherever Prabhupada was. And you can't blame him. I mean, it was, even Hari Shari wrote in his diary that he noticed that he learned more being Prabhupada's servant, in a couple of months than he learned in the years before, all the years before that, because he observed Prabhupada. So there's something to that, but it's only really an inspiration to serve Prabhupada forever. He lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. So yeah, so I never knew Gurudas during Prabhupada's time with us. But I got to know him much about in the 90s. 20 years later, I got to know him. By then he had moved to the Bay Area. He was making films and he was becoming a counselor, and he had remarried Cindy, she's still with her. So I got to know him a little bit. And when I felt I'd known him enough, I'd said, because everybody knew that Guru Das had left the movement, after Prabhupada left. I said, boy, that must have been tough. When Prabhupada left, you had so much of his physical, that for you was the Hare Krishna movement, being with Prabhupada physically. And so he said, yeah, I couldn't take it. It wasn't the same. And of course it wasn't the same, in one sense, but especially because we were all so neophyte. And that's why Prabhupada would always travel, to let us see him at least once a year. We usually see him maybe once a year, wherever we would go. And so, yeah. And so, but Jamuna got it. So after Prabhupada left, of course it was devastating, but she didn't fall apart like Guru Das. She had her own, remember she had a farm in Oregon with Dina Tarine? And then she was in Sharanagati in BC. And she, to be with Jamuna, I never knew her either until the 90s. But to be with Jamuna was like being with you're going to hear about this in the next lesson, in lesson 10, was to be with Prabhupada in Prabhupada's aspect of being a consummate cook and cultural conquest. She learned a lot of culture and deity worship. Yeah, worshiping the deity. So to be with Jamuna was to be with that aspect of Prabhupada. And I won't say any more about that because that's part of the lesson of lesson 10. Now, was that part of an answer to you? Or I forget.
I brought it up.
Oh, you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, but we didn't even get to the good stuff.
Now, where was I? And why? And why? Because he cannot help himself. I'm sure you're helping yourself.
Mommy. There he is, right here. Mommy. Let's hear you do mommy. Can you do mommy for us? Do you do that? Does he do it like Prabhu did? When you go crazy.
What?
You're not even listening.
All right, that's all right. Hey, Mom.
Do it.
Oh, do my right.
That's the way he did it. Maybe
Mommy! He must! He must! He must! Do you hear, Chef? He must! He must!
Oh, Hare Krishna. But we digress. No, the best part of the I'm getting to, that was just by way of prelude, is that because people started to import stuff from India that wasn't always applicable to ISKCON in the West. And it wasn't even Vaishnav. It was just, anarthas from modern India, like abuse of women, abusing women, right? So all of a sudden, somewhere in the early mid-70s, it shifted where, women were stuck in the back of the temple and you shouldn't associate with them, they're just Maya. It was like, holy smoke. So anyway, in fact, there was a whole movement by 76. Some sannyasis and brahmacharis, this isn't even widely known amongst devotees, but it's documented, that there was a proposal to Srila Prabhupada that all the grihastas go to Australia. All the women, was it the women and grihastas? Something like that. Anyway, there was a whole thing in 1976. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was convinced that what was holding us back from really being more powerful movement was that was the grihastas, who were in the temple, who were managing the temples. And they had families, they had kids, that wife and children. And so it was good because, if they were good temple presidents, the temple became like a family. And the temple president and his wife were kind of like the mom and pop of the people in the temples. I mean, I experienced that in Gainesville with Amarendra Prabhu and Gayatri. And so anyway, so 76 TKG, he had his agenda for the GBC meetings, and that was the big thing. It was that he's convinced that all the grihastas should leave the temples, and it should just be for brahmacharis and sannyasis. Just the renunciates should run the temples, right? So anyway, so the meetings go on, and TKG, he's kind of like the heavy hitter there in the GBC, and he's making all these proposals. And then after the meeting, and in those days when Prabhupada was with us, the GBC met and they passed their resolutions, and then at the end they would show them to Prabhupada. He had the final say. So just to make sure that Prabhupada was on board with his agenda, his thinking, his proposals, TKG would come, and after each day he would tell Prabhupada, what the proposal was. And it was all about just getting the grihastas out of the temples and separating, the women, just like the Godbrothers had said, because a lot of the stuff was coming from India. And so anyway, so Prabhupada he appeared to be going along with it. Right? And so Prabhupada, he would just do that Indian thing with the head. In the West, we like yes and no, and in India, it's like the infinite neck. The sign of infinity is like, you don't know if it's yes or no or whatever. So anyway, so Prabhupada just, he's just making sounds and tipping his head. And so TKG thought, okay, I got Prabhupada on my side, so. And then the grihastas, who were not on the GBC, by then it was a lot of sannyasis on the GBC. They got wind of these proposals. I don't know how. There was a leak somehow, and they went to Prabhupada with this, with their complaints. This is Prabhupada. This is crazy. We know how to manage. These temples are successful. We're expanding and building the temples and keeping devotees because we know how to manage. We're managing families. These guys don't know how to manage. Maybe they can manage a book distribution party, but they don't know how to manage temples. So one by one, and then there was this idea that the women go to Australia, and it was kind of like Australia. How did Australia start? Do you know the history?
Yeah, criminals.
It was a prison colony from India or from England. So this is ongoing joke between New Zealand and Australia, because Australia was where they sent their prisoners, and New Zealand was where the Brits vacationed. So the New Zealanders are like, don't lump us in with the Aussies because we're the Tories, we're the upper class, we're the lords, and they're the commoners. So anyway, so one by one, as all those resolutions that TKG had thought he had gotten approved, Prabhupada disapproved them. He unchecked the boxes. And then TKG got wind of this, that none of the proposals actually that he wanted to pass, because Prabhupada shot him down. And TKG felt so bad. He came to Prabhupada, I feel so useless. I should just I should just go to China. Yes, you must go to China. That's where that came from. That's where that came from. So TKG said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, I was just joking. I could have just as well said the moon, No, you must go to China. Because we weren't in China, right? We had been, because it was a hardcore communist place. So that when TKG saw that Prabhupada was serious, he couldn't sleep that night. He just spent all night rehearsing arguments in his head of why he should not go to China. So he came the next day and he said, Srila Prabhupada, the New Yorker, I thought about this long and hard, and I know that I shouldn't go to China. And every reason that he gave, Prabhupada just dismissed. No, because he wanted something to start in China. So when TKG saw that there was no hope, that Prabhupada, when Prabhupada wanted to do something, he was surrendered to Prabhupada. He said, okay. So he and his right-hand man, Drishtajumna Maharaj, yes, went to Hong Kong. And in those days, you could go to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong was your bridge to China. Now, Hong Kong is practically controlled by China because of the politics. So they did a little preliminary foray, and based on their field work, they came back to Prabhupada and said, it's too, because they got stopped in China just because they were Westerners. And even though Nixon had already started the great thaw with China, he and, I forget who, I think it was Chairman Mao was still there. Yeah. So anyway, they came back, and they gave a very, detailed report of how it wasn't the time. So Prabhupada accepted it because it wasn't the time. But Prabhupada said, still in the future you must go to China. And he did. If you've read, he's written about it, he had a book about it, and yeah. But the point, to Maharaj's point, it was all, it was like they were learning different things about India. And there's a saying we have in English, trying to be more Catholic than the Pope. So they were trying to be more Vedic than Prabhupada. Prabhupada wasn't interested in being, he was interested in being Vaishnav. And Vaishnavas don't do that. They don't disparage or look down on other devotees based on gender or any bodily thing, or country or ethnicity. Okay, is that all right? Or do you wanted to?
I'd like to add something.
Okay, please.
Okay, so.
We gotta.
Okay, so I function as a governing body. I go to Sharnath. There was a period where Yamuna Devi and Dina Tarini lived in a house made of bales of straw and everything. I know
Yeah.
the devotees have built it and everything. So the morning program in those days, whether it didn't matter what season, was held at her home.
Yes.
And so I used to, when I'd visit Sharanagati, I'd go to her home, right? There wasn't a big attendance, but she just told me at one point, when we were not discussing the Bhagavatam, and it was more of a discussion
Yes.
at her home.
Yes.
But she sat down in a chair like this, and I was very close to her. A few other devotees were around. And I don't know how we got to this topic, but she was just saying that I was very close to Prabhupada physically, and that didn't fly, Prabhupada pointed it out, okay, you will have to, at this point, you should not be so physically close. And she's a Western woman, she's used to this kind of thing. So I gathered from that that's something that she had to apply, and she did. She was always a good devotee, right?
Yeah.
So,
She respected the etiquette of a sannyasi.
the etiquette, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Otherwise, people would talk, and probably
exactly.
didn't want that kind of thing. So, in regards to the topic, yeah, we were very extreme in this, being under the influence of the New York sannyasi, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who, because it was a horrible time. Because actually, the worst thing we ever got that hit ISKCON, was what was started by the Radha Damodar party.
The attitude.
Under
yeah.
his, auspices. Yeah, and Praharna can tell you in great detail what the ladies here had to go through. We had just bought this building, and they felt not wanted. They had to find a house outside.
They probably had collected the money to buy it.
Yeah, the ladies were also involved in the Sankirtan here to get the building, and Praharna can tell you something about if you don't want our services, we'll do something else. But within that year, everyone got married to each other. Everyone got, except for Bhakti. But she'll tell you some of the stories, because last year at the mantra retreat, it was my suggestion to our team that she gets a chance to say something about what some of the women went through during that period. And it's quite nightmarish. It's horrible. Like not Haribol, but horrible.
Yeah.
Right? And so we went through that phase. It kind of got cleaned up in North America, more so. There are still some temples at ISKCON where the women are in the corner in the back, especially at Gujarat, of all places, and Mumbai. And just historically it's important to bring it up to let everybody understand we should not go there. Now, I just want to let you know, we do have a sannyasi who comes to visit North America. He's got the same kind of mindset, anti-woman, anti-grahasta, anti-brahmachari, who toes the party line, and our leaders don't accept it. We had him come here once some years ago, and he was not a gentleman. So it's scary to see this surface again 50 years later. We just don't want it. It's absolutely nonsense, And I guess some devotees get convinced, there's so much going on there, there's too many books. Okay, yeah, that was happening at Radha Damodar time too.
Yeah.
And most of the men who were on the Radha Damodar party got married and settled down, like Swabhas and all that. Just, they got normalized. But we don't want this kind of anti-anything. And it's how it happened, because if you're raised in North America, you're used to this equality, and most of us men were taught by female teachers, In the 50s, women had 2 jobs. Okay.
Confirmed.
And the Maharaj were in the class. We just want to say Hari Bol to you.
Whoa.
Hare Krishna. We'll talk. And where was I? And why?
And
why? Okay. Yeah, really, it's true. Okay, so the women were having trouble, and
The sannyasi that's not welcome.
the sannyasi is not welcome
In the whole Canada?
in North America, in many places.
In the whole North America?
Many North America. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's scary to see it surface again. We don't like that sort of. It's not what Prabhupada taught us. He didn't teach us that. That was not his mood. And this same sannyasi is saying women should not be doing Gayatri Mantra.
Okay.
And then we have a
got it.
problem with that, because it's something Prabhupada didn't introduce.
We have
So-
pictures of Prabhupada showing his lady disciples how to count.
Yeah.
So how can you do
Yeah.
that? Right?
So I'm just advising anybody, if you're influenced by that group down the south of the border, down Mason-Dixon line,
Atlanta. It's
desist
in Atlanta.
from hearing from that. with that culture down there. We just don't want it. It's evil. It's evil. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that, and, at the same time, we have to be a little careful here. That's why I say in the prasadam time, can you please not sit with each other? It's just not something we did during Prabhupada's time either,
That's the other side of the coin, right? There is etiquette.
Yeah, there is etiquette, that's what, Yamuna was trying to say to me about that point. So, guys, you can sit by some women over there, don't get too loosey-goosey here. Stop it. I try to correct it, but you guys keep moving, going back and gravitating in that area. So stop it.
Don't melt these guys' butter, please.
Yes. All right. So, there is an etiquette, there's a protocol, and you're respecting the other gender by not getting too close. It's not for the temple. It's not for here. And people start to talk. We don't mind if you guys get married to each other. But there's a process, there's a way to do it. Okay, just don't do that. You want to get me angry, then do that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Sorry to get emotional.
No, that's good. All right, we have Karuna Sindhu, who's part Canadian and part Indian. So what to do?
I think that's why it's important to discuss these things, because the line keeps shifting. This line between what etiquette and what culture you accept and what you don't. So you have to discuss where to keep that line so it doesn't go to one extreme or the other extreme.
Very good. Yeah. Discussion among friends.
Yeah. The thing is, we have Bhakti Academy, we also have ISKCON. The umbrella is ISKCON. So sometimes Bhakti Academy have their little powwows. Some of us don't, what are they talking about? What are they doing? So it's important that, we all come together to have these discussions. It doesn't become appear like there's some separatist movement going on.
How often do you had this Istagosti the other day? Remember when I peeked in? How often do you do that?
Every Sunday.
Oh, that's great.
But that's just Bhakti Academy. That's just Bhakti.
So that all the teachers we do it together.
Somewhere where I don't even know about it. Nobody tells me.
You're probably walking somewhere.
Flying somewhere. I can be better informed. Just let me know. I'm here for you guys.
So the big Istagosti is for everybody? You said leaders at first, but it sounded like anybody could come from the temple? Or no?
Temple residents.
Temple residents. Yeah, not the congregation. Temple. Oh, that's good. Because without communication, there's no cooperation. Sometimes. Okay, so that was good. We ended the lesson early so we could have all these in-depth discussions. Yes?
I wanted to just add one point. I remembered when Anuttama Prabhu was here and Partha Prabhu was here, they were both sharing this story about the proposal that sannyasis made in GBC, and Prabhupada got really angry by the end also. Like he hit the table very hard and he quoted that verse 3-4 times. Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi.
Oh, wow,
Kiba
okay.
Vinay. So, yeah.
Does everybody know that verse? Kiva Vipra, whether you're learned, Nyasi, whether you're renunciate, Shudra, whether you're Shudra, Kene Noi, Yea, Krishna, if you know the art and science of Krishna, say Guru, you're a Guru. And Prabhupada, he quoted the same verse in June of '76, right here, to Professor O'Connell and his wife. Were you in the room?
I wasn't in the room.
Okay. They asked, can a woman be a temple president? Can a woman be a guru? Point blank. And Prabhupada quoted that verse. And then he said, just like your wife, O'Connell's wife was a professor too. June 18th, 1976. So, just like your wife, she's a professor. She's a lady. Why is she a professor? Because she's qualified. She knows her field, whatever her field was, her field. So it's not that because she's a woman she can't be a professor. So, the anti-VDG, the anti-no Vaishnavi Diksha gurus, they have no answer for that point-blank example from Prabhupada. They have no answer for it. Prabhupada said that was the most head-on, straight-up instance of Prabhupada saying yes.
And it happened right here.
And it happened right here, and still, at the, not as we speak yet, but at the GBC midterms in October, early October, next month, they're still discussing this. There's more to say about it, but when Kalakanta comes, he's going to go to those midterms. I'm going to ask him. He's coming today at 11?
Mm-hmm.
11?
12.
12.
11 he arrives at the airport.
And then 12, he'll be here. Okay. So we can ask him, what's the state of the union on this, on this issue, or disunion? Yeah. Okay. I always forget what you asked, or that was a comment.
Yeah, I just
Yeah, that's right. All right. And now hear from the renounced order, or the neophytes, the student order. The comedian.
Probably
I
from
told
us.
him at lunch, his Varna is he's a comedian. That's his Varna. Okay.
So Prabhu, since this is a really sensitive topic, I just wanted to know where is this thing arising from? Because as Maharaj usually quotes Prabhupada, when he was here, he quoted Janva Devi, and then we also know Sita Thakurani, and then Mahaprabhu's wife, Vishnupriya, they all were engaged in proper worshipping, right? And then here, even if we see practically, Vishakha Prabhu, she leads all of us. Like, she's training us to be leaders.
Vyashaka Mataji. Okay, here.
Yeah. And then we know wonderful disciples of Srila Prabhupada like Uttama Prabhu, and then we have Yamuna Mataji, Mother Praharna, and Malati Prabhu, huh? So where is this thing coming from that, the extremist way of like only sannyasis? Why are the ladies are not, where is this thing coming from?
Motive passion.
It's called Dehatma Buddhi, the bodily concept of life. I'm a man. I'm the leader. She's a woman. She's inferior to me. Now, Krishna, he's the leader. He's the supreme male. He's Purusha, Paramang Purush. But he's controlled by his better half, Radharani. He's controlled by Radharani. So the way to get to Krishna is through Radha, and the way to get to Radha is by serving the devotees. Hare, yeah, and right, we say Hare Krishna. Oh Radha, oh energy of the Lord, oh Lord, please engage me in your eternal loving service. Yeah, it's a good old-fashioned bodily concept of life, which is always haunting us, dogging us, ruining us.
Modern day feminists have the same attitude, but it's reversed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I once saw a bumper sticker and there's a lot of gay people in San Francisco. There's a lot of gay ladies in Berkeley. So I once saw a bumper sticker in Berkeley, and it said, "I spoke to God last night, and boy, was she pissed. Boy, was she mad." In other words, God's a woman, right? That's it, because they're projecting their, bodily concepts. So we're all messed up here in the material world. Okay, we have Nityananda and the wife of Lord Nityananda.